approval of minutes, March 27, 2024.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Discussion and vote to amend and approve recommendation of City Council and School Committee compensation to factor in cost of living. From Commissioner Vinatiero.
Recuse myself from this one.
Okay.
Yeah, Benny, as a candidate, I'm gonna use myself.
Are we gonna have them?
Are we gonna have another table? Tables with you on?
There's 7 of us, there's 2,
I don't think so.
1, 2, 3,
We might have to table it.
I'll stay so you can see how the vote goes.
This wouldn't affect Jenny though.
That's actually a fair point.
This is-
I'll
He's
stay.
safe, he's safe.
That's actually true. Jenny's not running again.
Jenny's not running for reelection.
All right, so then I am gonna recuse myself.
Okay. That works.
And you heard why, right? Obviously, for the record.
Okay. I'll accept a motion for the purposes of discussion.
so moved.
Second?
Commissioner Vinatiero?
We have addressed the salaries of the mayor, the city council, and the school committee, and amended them so that compensation would be commensurate with the level of work, even though with all three, the level of income and salary is less than adequate. It was brought up that the mayor's salary needed to be adjusted on a regular basis, that we needed a vehicle, and the Commissioner Louise came up with a cost of living adjustment solution that factored in a COLA for the mayor, and that was an excellent solution to that immediate problem. I feel that we should mimic that solution for the city council and the school committee, so that their salaries are not static or stagnant for decades, because they would have to await either a change through either ordinance or by charter amendment. So I am proposing that we ask the solicitor to include the same language, to mimic the cost of living adjustment language from the mayor's income to that of the city council and the school committee, with the same limit of 3% per year as determined by the Consumer Price Index. That way, on a yearly basis, the salary gets adjusted. If the cost of living goes up, the salary goes up. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And there's no need to go through the machinations of getting ordinances passed or getting the charter amended. That's my rationale for putting this forward.
Through the chair. Commissioner Vinatiero, I remember we had discussion, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so excuse me if it came up again last week. What format or what guideline did we decide to use? Because there were 2 or 3 different guidelines that could be used.
The CPI,
Okay,
as the same CPI that Social Security uses.
okay.
To the chair. Mr. Vinatiero, a question. Now, if a council, they're in there for 4 years, and then a new council comes in, do they start at the salary with the cost of living, or do they start at the salary, the original salary that they started at?
No, they would start with the salary of the person they replaced,
Okay. At that point.
Cost of living.
because that would become the indexed salary.
Okay.
You know, each year the index would change.
Through the chair. Mr. Vinatiero. the increase, because I know with the mayor, we had taken the salary and we looked at bringing the increase to a certain amount. And then you said the 3% after that.
Right.
So would we be using some type of format to like, to bring, because they get more of a stipend, right? Our city council and our school committee doesn't get a salary, they get a stipend.
$7,000.
Okay, so does that stipend, would it be treated just like the salary is treated with an increased cost? I know the cost of living can be increased, but what I'm saying is like the baseline, do we start it at the baseline of what it is now and increase 3% every year? Or are we looking to increase and then do 3% every year?
No, we already voted to increase it.
Okay.
It was five, I believe it was 5, and we increased it to 7.
Yeah,
What was it?
we doubled, in an earlier meeting, we doubled the price rate for both city council and school committee.
Okay,
And then,
so went from 35 to 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
and then an extra 1,000, I think, for the chair.
For the council president.
Yeah, the school committee chair, and then so this would, correct me if I'm wrong, this would just be attaching the CPI to that vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no request for a change, it would be what we discussed and just adding the CPI portion to it.
The salary is going to remain at 7,000.
Okay.
If the CPI is calculated, if this gets approved by the voters,
Mhm.
okay, and the following year, the CPI is 0, there's no raise.
Gotcha.
If the CPI is 2%, they get a 2% raise. If it's 6%, they get a 3% raise.
So we would have the same stipend of the 3%, that cushion like we had discussed?
Yes,
Okay,
but it's only 3% if it's 3% or more.
It's no more than 3%.
so even if cost of living went up, like you said, 6 or 7%, we would still only be looking at the 3%?
Correct.
Okay, just a clarification,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other discussion on the item? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Perry votes aye. Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Silva?
Aye,
Mr. Sulo?
Aye.
Mr. Vinatiero?
Aye.
Chairman Furtado?
Aye.
Okay. Discussion and vote on a proposed budget amendment presented by the Law Department.
So this is what Malcolm is here for today. I know we have some issues with the actual language. So depending on how the commission wants to proceed today, we can choose to either vote on it or not vote on it today, but we can at least go through it and ask questions to the finance director. And then this document, there are some changes in here that aren't related, that aren't finance changes. We can go through those too, but for the sake of Mr. Moore's time, I think we can skip to Article 4. So in section 4-3, no, actually, Malcolm, I'll start with this question for you. Did you work with the city solicitor's office for the changes? Did you sit down with them and actually go through the charter for proposed changes?
I believe so. I've got a copy of what I had sent over, so I was checking in here to see if they were in here, so.
Are they?
I look like some of them are, yes.
Okay.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
It appears that the first change is item 4.4-10, unexpended appropriations. Is that the first change? Except for capital, all appropriations except for capital?
Yes. Yeah. all
Shall lapse at the
appropriations-
end of the budget year to the extent they shall not have been expended or lawfully encumbered. That seems to make sense, Mr. Moore. Is that acceptable to the finance department, that change in language?
Yes, that's the one I recommended.
Okay,
Um,
I can see where that would
Yes.
make all the sense in the all sense to do that, yes. Okay.
This isn't in the suggested changes, and sorry to flip back up, but here, in section 4-3, it says Director of Finance salary. Do we want to strike that section since the Director's department head and the salary says is determined by ordinance? And the director would work at the pleasure of the mayor and the salary set at the pleasure of the mayor. Says the director of finance shall receive such salary as may be determined by ordinance unless the duties of said office shall be performed by the mayor. But if, for example, the mayor hires a department head or like HR, let's say the mayor can set the salary for HR. But according to this, the mayor has to have the city council pass an ordinance unless the mayor himself is the finance director.
Is that the situation now? Is your salary determined by ordinance or by contract?
by contract.
By contract, so this would be a moot change then?
Yes, and I think the last surviving person that was hired under the city manager form of government. So I would probably set it like you have, I was looking what you have for public works, police, fire, the head of which shall be the director of public works, who shall be appointed by the mayor, and who shall be subject to removal by the mayor. And none of those, police, fire, or DPW say anything about salary.
Through the chair, would it be appropriate to ask the law department to create language that would put the finance director's office in accordance with the other department heads?
Yeah, I would think that would be the easiest way.
To the chair. On 4.1, it does say that. It just, the only thing that's different, it looks like, is the director, the salary. If you look in,
So maybe we can just delete.
Just
That's true, we
strike
could just,
that.
we could just strike that. Okay.
Should we just, I'm sorry, for the chair, should we make sure that there's no reason for that? Is there any, like, just through legal, just like,
I mean, we can just,
to make sure that they don't, I mean, it's probably an oversight from the last charter change, but just to make sure.
Mr. Chair, if we make a recommendation to strike it, and would it get referred to legal and they say, well, no, you can't
Yes,
be
so
done
this is-
anyway?
this would get, what we're doing is making a recommendation, so they do still go to legal. And then if the city council approves of it, then the language would get, would go on the ballot as ballot questions, but yeah, the legal department would still have to tweak it, so.
Okay, yeah, so continue the thought, I guess, rather than submitting it, then waiting to get it back, then to say, we'll make the change, make the recommendation, it goes through, clears, then it's through, so.
That's fine.
So through the chair, the suggestion is to delete 4.3, section 4.3 completely?
Yes.
And through the chair, Malcolm, you think that works?
Yes.
And the law department, can you comment on that or not prepared?
Sure. No, the only thing I would ask is maybe if there's a recommendation to, instead of delete it, just repeal that language so we can still have a placeholder instead of renumbering the rest of the section. Just, it would be 4.3 repealed, if that
Okay,
makes sense.
Yes,
yes.
yeah, but don't explain that on another thing.
It's so annoying to go
To
through all
renumber.
these. This is a long one.
So in that case, I'm so moved with the recommendations and the advice of finance in law department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Um, Sounds gonna be.
Yeah. Vote to approve substantive changes to the city charter.
Hold on, we still have to
Did I miss
go,
one?
we still have to go through the rest of it.
Oh,
I know, I wish we didn't have to. Let's see, there's a change in 4-13 on competitive bidding. This, I think this is a grammatical
Renotice.
change, yeah, just adding, inserting or renotice into the sentence.
Through the chair, does that come from the recommendation from the finance department, Malcolm?
No, I'm not familiar with the or renotice.
The law department, do we know where that came from? The purpose of, again, I wasn't here at the last meeting.
No, sorry about that.
No, this wasn't brought up.
Okay,
So my thought is that is just to capture any, maybe like a smaller expenditure that doesn't need to be advertised through the same formal requirements. If it's gonna be noticed on a city council agenda or something like that, that captures
good
those.
catch. Do you concur, Malcolm?
I do, because it says the mayor has the right to reject any and all bids and to re-advertise for same. But sometimes you don't re-advertise, it's just the notices.
Through the chair, are you looking for a motion? Are we doing this individually?
I think we can pass it, we can actually pass them all at once, if we don't want to go through the tedious part, as long as we don't have any objections from people. So I think this is a minor change, and this is something that we already do.
So the chair will leave just the finance portion of it, we're gonna do that with, right?
Yeah, we can have discussions on the other changes,
Okay.
uh, 4-17, emergency appropriations borrowing. That's just lining it up with 4-16. I don't have an issue with that.
through the chair. Malcolm, is 4-17 your recommendation?
Yes,
It is.
it was just following the same process as 416.
What is it basically saying, that if you don't have the money, you can borrow it if there's an emergency? Right?
Yes.
We'll go to 419. Special revenue, no.
Unknown. So they just put in quotation marks.
I believe it's just a quotation marks.
Okay.
So was it thought to remove the quotation marks? Or they were added?
Because we don't have the
That's
red
not
on
in
us,
red.
so it's hard for us to tell because it's black and white.
Oh, sorry, yeah, oh, I'm looking at it.
It's just, the chair took this double quotation mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled it up from the email and it has track changes and it just says added, so.
Through the chair, is the finance department, Malcolm, is that something on 419 that you requested or recommended?
I don't think so.
I think that's just a grammatical.
Just language?
Yeah, it looks like maybe even a font issue. I'm not sure if those were in a different font for some reason.
Okay, because it looks all the same to me.
Yeah,
Yes, it's the same thing in 426.
In 424, yeah.
Okay.
I think those are typos.
yeah, it looks
I
like,
think it's,
Because it's, they're double quotation marks.
I think, like somebody said, it may be a change in font.
Yeah.
Did you say that, Megan?
yeah, it looks like they went from
They
the
were
the
slanted
straight
to straight, I
quotations.
think it was just
Yeah.
cleaning up the, I'm guessing.
Yes, that's what it looks like to me.
Same thing, 5-1, right? Like the next one then.
Well, no, there's, we got 426. And we got I just saw another one. Oh, 430. And they're wrong. No, 430 is just, yeah, they can't be quotation because there's no open and close on that one. It's just one set. I think they're just inadvertent quotation marks.
Fixing, yeah, fixing.
So now we go to Article 5,
Yeah, so,
and that's a substantive.
yeah, the 5-1, the fiscal year of the government may be altered to coincide with, I think that should just be with the fiscal year of the state of Rhode Island. But was that you, Malcolm, that added that section, or is that Dylan?
I think that's Dylan.
Okay.
Fiscal year of the, to the chair, the fiscal year of the government may be altered to coincide with the fiscal year of the state. So this is the alignment that we've been talking about for years with the fiscal year. It's just allowing us.
It's just, it's empowering language.
Oh, it's may.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, maybe.
Do we need two in with?
No.
No,
You think you'd have one or the other.
Yes,
I would say with, right?
yes, that would be my choice.
Great. Did you put that in there, Malcolm?
Okay, now we go to 55-4.
Go up above 551, just the same thing with the quotes.
Yeah, just thinking.
552 as well.
Yeah.
And for 5.6, Malcolm, I'm assuming you added that part in the first 6 months?
Yes.
So Chairman, can I ask that at some point that you email this out to me? Because I'd like to be able to see the the difference. This is really difficult to follow.
As soon as I get Wi-Fi, I will send it.
That would be fine. It doesn't have to be at this particular meeting. You can do it on your own leisure, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that if possible as well.
Yeah.
Was that a request from the finance department? To delete section 4?
Yes.
Yes?
And what was the purpose, and through the chair, what was the purpose of deletion?
Well, it says, actually, third sentence or something, it says, and then actually realized in the first 10 months of the current fiscal year. Well, we start the process in May, which is 7 months into the year. So by the time you're done, you don't even have 10 months, or you may not have. That's the problem.
So it's a calendar issue.
Yes, I mean, so we start the budget process, we know what 6 months is. It makes it simple for most people because you can kind of double that to see maybe where you are. And so if you're sending something to council, you may not have 10 months to give them, even though it's going to be a violation of the charter because they want now 75 days early.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Section 5. No revenue from the new source not realized. The expectation actually realized in cash for a year. The amount stated in social.
Through the chair. Is 5-56, Malcolm, the same thing as the time period?
Well, yeah, I put in, we don't currently, I mean, the mayor puts his budget together, but he does not, it says, he shall certify such determinations in writing to the council. So he doesn't specifically say that, like we're, in this next budget, we're going to start having to phase out the tangible personal property tax. So we'll probably put a line in the budget, but technically it would be in violation of this because, it's a new source, but he didn't certify. So it's, it's sort of like in practice, we're doing this, but here it's saying we should be doing something else.
What section?
-5-6.
No revenue.
Yeah. New source. That's where we are, right?
Yeah,
Again, you guys have the rate, we get really.
that's what I thought we were.
I have to read with my online section, the straight throughs are actually deleted, so I can't see the straight throughs, so I'm using this to
Malcolm, to go back to that, number 6, I'm sorry, through the chair. New revenue would be like, something like a new revenue stream, right? The city decided it was going to tax Bubbleville, and it had never taxed Bubbleville before. And you're gonna anticipate that new revenue stream is gonna bring in $1 million a year. It's gonna require the mayor to certify that, is that,
Yes, a good example recently was the speed cameras.
okay?
And so that was put in the budget, and let's say it was 3 million, or 3.5. But, so we put in the budget, but nowhere did he certify in writing to the council that this was a new source of revenue. I mean, we may have told him and it was in the budget, but, did he certify?
And how could you? When you say certify, do you mean more like identify? This is a new source of revenue
Yes.
rather than, my interpretation of certify is,
It states here though that it would be, I'm sorry, through the chair.
yes.
It states that he would certify it in writing to the councils. So I guess a formal letter from the mayor's office would have to go to the council to certify that this is the change that I would imagine that this line item is being put into which seems awful. Repetitive if they've already brought it to a meeting and it was put on the docket, because that's also in writing. The docket's also a written document. So it's
Don't
kind of,
see.
I think I understand Malcolm's accent for speech.
If what I'm trying to get at, and I'm not doing a good job of it, I know, is that if we were to go along with this deletion, it's not gonna create any problem for the finance office.
No.
I guess I should have said that first.
Through the chair. So this 5.6 anticipated revenues compared with other years, Malcolm, is the same thing. It's the time period you need to get in the first 6 months, or the finance department does. Is that your addition or your deletion and addition?
That's, yes, also in mind. That's what I have in there. And so normally what we have in the budget process is you'll have 2 years ago actual, last year's actual, the current year budget, and then the 6 months, and then next year's. And we don't have room for any more. So the question is, I told the mayor, if we add stuff, we have to draw columns. And he's like, well, he liked that format. So in here, it's talking about, like I wanted to make it say 6 months because that's what we had up top. So it's consistent. So we do everything for a half a year. But it also then it says, plus receipts for the remainder of the current fiscal year, which we don't have room for.
Plus it's estimated.
Yes.
Through the chair, you want me to continue on?
I'm just reading through it.
Section 5.7 surplus deleted. You did that, Malcolm?
Yes, it seemed, I don't know, trying to define what the surplus is. At the end of the year, it's a cash basis, so whatever you spent and whatever you received, and the balance is your surplus. Where they're saying that, it's receipts. Well, it's all your receipts minus all your expenses.
So if we left 5.7 in, your opinion needs to list about 30 or 40 different items that are received.
Yeah, I mean, you could keep it, it shall include.
Yeah.
but it's,
But again, that's just a partial list.
Mhm.
through the chair. If we delete this again, we're gonna need remuneration of this section.
You just put repeal.
Sure, yeah.
So, repeal.
Through the chair. Section 5.8, Malcolm, can you explain subsections 4, 5, and 6 to us? And the purpose on deletion, if those are your deletion, section 5.8. The first one coincides with the vote.
Yeah.
Probably redundant.
Let's say we should include the amount by which the total receipts of miscellaneous revenue in the last completed fiscal year fair to equal the total budget amount estimated for the receipt of the miscellaneous revenue in that year. It talks about expenditures. Hang on, give me a second to regroup on this one.
I'm here all night, Evan. Disasters, yeah.
I may have taken 4 and 5 out because you're talking about expenditures. And 4 and 5 are revenue.
So with that being said through the chair, do you think they need to be moved or do you leave it?
I think it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, it kind of, it's redundant.
Because they've got a section 5.5 about revenues.
Mhm.
And I know we don't do 5, an amount equal to the aggregate of all taxes levied for the third fiscal year prior to the budget year, which are delinquent and outstanding on the 60th day prior to the beginning of the budget year, except to the extent where the city may have made provisions therefore by reserving the full amount of said delinquent taxes.
We're not doing that. Wanna go with it?
I don't know what that's saying.
I mean, normally in the budget, when you figure it out, you'll have the current year taxes and prior. But this is specifically stating the third fiscal year prior to the budget. And now you've got to put in, it's just, it gets to be tedious. I mean, normally when you're just trying to figure out what my total revenue is going to be, and you can break it down by year or by current and prior. And prior is, you've got your, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years prior, but normally it's just, you lump them all together and say how much of that you normally get. The majority of it is the previous year. And you can see it falls off pretty quickly. I think by the end of year 2, you've collected 99 point something %. Because in the second year, you'll go to tax sale.
Right.
Um,
So, yeah, how many make it to the third?
Very few. Now, if you have a tax sale, you could get some people going into the third. But you'll have some, it could be a court case or, you know.
And 6, Malcolm?
Well, it says an amount equal to the aggregate of cancellations, remissions, abatements, refunds. That's, again, really, when you look at your revenue, you gotta figure that, you know, you're gonna have, when you send the tax bills out, there's the group that pays in full as of July 1st. So there's a pretty big discount there. Could be $750,000. State law says if we offer a discount, then the escrow companies have to pay in full and take the discount. So we get a big windfall July 1st. And so you take that into consideration, and there's also some cancellations and abatements. So again, when you're trying to figure out, you look at historically how much you've collected. You know, your abatements could be anywhere between $250,000 and $750,000. And so, again, this is a revenue, and it's just one of the factors that you factor in when you're looking at what you're gonna budget for your next year for revenues.
Through the chair. 5.9 seems that you recommend to be consistent with those 6 months.
Yes.
510, I'm assuming that one is coming from the law department, that's just updating us to the 21st century. Posting our budget on the website.
Yes. Right, because the old
Once
ones,
it's posted on the website, you don't need copies to be available because people can access it.
511.1 is to be consistent with state law. Is that what you're doing there, Malcolm?
yes, we run into a problem with the state law on some of these publishing dates. And so I think that's why we have it set forth in our IGL.
Two is to be consistent with the, or noticed of the other sections, and the budget is proposed by the mayor, so it's not just a budget, it's the mayor's proposed budget. Is that right, Malcolm?
Yes.
Malcolm, did you add the 511.3 for capital expenditure? That there has to be a public hearing for capital expenditures?
No, but I think that should be in because now we have set up a separate fund for capital.
Yeah.
So now we have, the appropriation or the budget, and then you have the capital budget, so they're now separate.
So it means a state law change too, right? To confirm with the Rhode Island state law.
Yes,
So that would state law supersedes anyway, so.
very similar to one where they just said, for the Rhode Island general laws.
Is, no, we got it. That's page before, got me confused about the record again.
512.
So 4 is, and I don't know, Malcolm, if it's you or Megan or who, that's just clarifying the snafu that was in place the last time about whether the timeline that the mayor has or the council has to override the mayor's veto on the budget, because there was the belief that if the mayor vetoed the budget, the council wouldn't have enough time to override the veto before the mayor's budget would go into effect.
Correct.
There was a lot of drama with that.
Yes, the two solicitors couldn't agree on how that was interpreted. So the budget can be passed 7 days before the end of the fiscal year, and the mayor has, 10 days to veto. Well, technically, at 10 days, you're into the new fiscal year. So, the question is, well, then, if the council didn't approve it 7 days before, so then the mayor's budget goes in, the other solicitor said, but the mayor's veto shouldn't be the final, because the council should be able to veto it. And so you can't look at it that way, because that gives the mayor absolute power, and it shouldn't. So they were conflicted, so this just clarifies. It says the council has the right to override the mayor's veto, even if it really goes into the next fiscal year.
Was
It takes a supermajority, right?
do you know where the 15 number comes from? Or was that just
That I don't know.
just
Yeah, I'm not
arbitrary?
totally sure on that.
I don't have a problem with that, I was just curious.
Yeah.
It's probably another municipality.
Is that language correct, the last sentence? If after a veto, the council fails to timely pass a budget within with.
Yeah, no, I was reading that too, I was confused.
The within should be deleted.
Within,
Yeah, just with 4 votes, I think.
Probably strike within, right?
I would think so.
I would think so. Budget with 4 vetoes, then the mayor's proposed budget shall become the effective budget. Yeah, it reads better the way you said it.
Okay, 513.1, we're saving more paper, that's good.
A lot of paper.
It's hard to find a mimeograph machine.
There's probably one in the building
It's probably
somewhere.
one in the cellar.
$514B, so getting rid of the 3.5%, that's good news. So that just takes us up to the state level.
Yes.
Okay.
And then under C, That's the same thing, really, it talks about if you're going over for the state, about how you, because it says, you can, if you meet one of the more provisions of Rhode Island General Law 44-5, whatever. So if you conform to the state law, then you don't need any of that.
Through the chair, why is 514 alphabetical and not numerical?
It's a good question.
Subsection A is the subsection.
Yeah, that must be an error. Maybe when the document was getting edited. But I'll double check
For
that.
consistency, it probably should be
Just
numerical.
make sure it's 1, 2, 3.
Starts to follow along after that, if you notice, it goes to alphabetical, so it must already be.
Yeah.
Maybe that, yeah,
Then it goes back to normal. Okay.
well, just for the section, the subsections of alphabetical. But I think I agree with Pam, they should not be all the same.
Especially if we're working so hard to correct the grammar errors and the punctuation.
So with, section 515(1), going up the 0.25%, Malcolm, what's the, I think it's good financial sense, but how come it was you put it at the 0.25%?
I recall it was, we were talking about increasing it, and should it be 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 2? I think it just ended up as a 1 1/4.
And through the chair, what's your distinction of deleting must and making it shall? What's the difference to you?
Sounds fancier.
I think that's legalese. Must means you really should. It doesn't mean you have to. Shall connotates that you have to.
Really? Okay.
And then the same thing with the fund balance,
Now, I
changing
think
it to
that
12.
through the chair, I think we may have an issue with 1A. Because the way it states now is you could budget 99% of your expenses, or 99% of revenues can go towards expenses. It leaves you 1% to go to capital.
Yeah.
So now, this says may only exceed 99%, so maybe only exceed, well, A then really conflicts with 1, because if 1 says you must or shall do it, because then if you look at A says that once your fund balance is 12%, I could really do away with that 1%. Because if I've got my fund balance at 12%, then I may exceed 99% of anticipated general fund operating revenues. So I could go to 100%, which means you would have nothing, then that would, does that make sense? Where the way it is now is I have 1% of my budget goes to capital. If the fund balance gets to 12%, the 1% was originally there to get my fund balance up to 12%. And then once it got to 12%, anything over went to capital. But 1A says, if it gets to 12%, I could just get rid of that 1% for capital. And in 1, they're saying, no, you have to put in 1.25% every year, no matter what, which would then really mean that you need to get rid of 1A.
So you think a complete deletion, Malcolm, of that section, of that
Yes.
subsection?
Of 1A.
1A.
My rationale is, over my time, I've found that when the money gets tight, usually one of the first things to go is the amount you put into capital. And you're just kicking the can down the road. And so I was always like, I'd like to see shall in there, so you have to do your ongoing maintenance, repair and all. Otherwise, you're just gonna, somewhere down the road, you're gonna have to do a big bond to fix all your problems.
Yeah, we filled it in high school. We found that out.
See, Malcolm, that's why I wanted you to be here.
Two D correction from 10 to 12 coincides with the,
Yeah, that was just a typo. You can't have 12% and 10%.
yeah.
One's gotta be wrong, so.
Stick with 12.
Right. I think originally it was 10, and we moved it to 12. They just didn't go in and change all the 10s to 12s. The first, 10 years ago.
So for 3, is that because you'd have to, would that help with the bond for capital? I mean, for,
Synchronization.
yeah, for synchronization.
Right.
Through the chair. Malcolm, how was that done in the past, by ordinance?
Well,
Because we added, when I was there, we added to the capital budget for capital projects, and money was taken out, as you know.
I think what we're saying here is that we've put money over into the capital projects fund. And it's saying that you can't use it to reduce debt reduction or this, you can't make principal or interest payments. However, if you were gonna synchronize, you could take some of that money, because, you're looking at a $50 million bond. And originally, before they built the high school, we had 15 million that was really sitting there that was reserved, but really was in the capital fund. And I'm like, that's gonna be a huge down payment for the synchronization, so then I don't have to do a $35 million bond. So that just gives you a little flexibility, because you may have 5, 6, 7, 10 million in capital. And so you could have the 10 million and go to a $50 million bond, or you could use this and go to a $40 million bond.
Brings us to the end of that.
We appreciate all the hard work that you do, Malcolm.
I will thank you very much.
And we hate to see you go, but we don't. We understand.
So are there any more finance-related questions before we let Malcolm go home?
I think he's earned his way all right.
All right, thank you, Malcolm.
Thank
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
I appreciate, I sat through most of these last time around, and I appreciate the effort you guys put in, because this, lots of meetings and lots of people, and
When's your last day?
I don't know yet.
Oh, you don't know yet, okay.
I was talking to Mark about this, and they went around through the budget process, so I said, I'll scale back and work part-time, and then you fill the rest in with vacation, and we'll try to come up with an end date. I'm in no hurry, I'm not gonna move anywhere or think about it for another year.
Good.
My
Well,
son's still living with me, so
I think the council will
if I
appreciate that.
kick him out, then I can move, but kids just won't leave.
He knows when he has it good.
Yes, all right, but thank you.
Thanks again, thank you.
Last time I read from my city.
So, through the chair. when we're doing, we said we're gonna vote as a group, say we vote as a group for the finance. How do we handle the corrections? Because we can't, do we send those separate to, those will go separate to Laura, or do we still vote on wanting those corrections to be made? For instance, that what Malcolm was just saying, that 1A, where he, the may exceed, and that he thought we should remove the A portion of that. That wasn't in here as
Yeah.
so now do we,
So what we can do is on the finance section, we can vote to approve and send, we can transmit the things that we've approved, including the changes that we've made at the same time, because it's gonna go through legal
Okay.
to the city council. So, and that way, they can then take that and with the changes that we've now recommended tonight. And I'll go as one thing for that.
now, my other question is, the city council originally said that they didn't want things in piecemeal. They wanted everything sent, but we did send the grammar and editorial stuff first because legal thought that they would be okay with that. Is there gonna be a problem with us sending the finance end of it? Or is it just, we're just sending it to legal and it's not gonna go any further?
Well, it'll go, I mean, legal can answer that better than I can, the actual process that, how the city council is gonna handle receiving things. I'm
Because
assuming they wanna do a workshop on it.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that the work we're doing is going to be perceived. Like, they're not gonna say, oh, we're trying to send them stuff in pieces when we asked not for that, so therefore they won't be open-minded to it. That's my concern, because they already said that they didn't wanna get things in sections. I mean, we need to do things in sections to be able to approve, but are they expecting us to hold it all and then send it to them, or can it be sent? That's my question, because
So to the chair, now, based on what this subpart A of the charter, the changes, proposed changes, one was sent to the council president. So he has what was proposed, not what we, like you're saying, in addition to what we corrected this evening.
exactly.
We'll put that forward, so they're still gonna have to go through that. To get this, was that part of the plan, I guess, to send it to the council president so they can be, I guess, prepped on it or so? Just trying to get understand
yeah,
why it was
sure.
done that way.
My understanding, the intent was more so to, I believe, it came up at one of the council meetings and Dylan was explaining to them that it was nearly done, there's just this one last section that's gonna be coming to them. And I think that was to flag to them that it is ready, it's gonna be gone over at the next commission meeting, just to let them, or the president know that this is what's going to the next meeting, just so they could see, I guess, the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to the chair, but that doesn't seem like it was the end because we made more corrections. So what they should in essence see is what we've completed before it gets to them. Correct? Rather than, I mean, unless it was just some a courtesy.
Yeah,
Other than
that's,
that, more so than anything procedural.
yes,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
I think it was
asking.
more of a courtesy than anything that was gonna be substantively reviewed. It was just flagging that this is the section that's going to be coming once it's finalized, or the final logo out.
Through the chair, it was a courtesy given to them and not to the entire commission. That is, it comes down to it. We all did not get this document like we should have in the beginning, like we requested it, but the council president did. So now that leaves, my questions are, and again, I'm not saying they don't deserve to have a copy of it. I'm saying, where's the intent there? They were very vocal to say that they did not want things in sections. Are they taking this as this is the agreed changes when we are having conversation now, we need to vote on things? And there's still questions that haven't been answered from legal, and they may have been answered in here, I'm just saying because I haven't read the whole document, but there were things that weren't answered yet that we were waiting for legal to get back to us on the answers. Again, they may be in this document, and I haven't read the entire document because I've been following along with just the finance section.
I mean, at the end of the day, two things can be true at once, which is that the Charter Commission makes recommendations, sends them to the council doesn't dictate how we send our recommendations to them. And two, the council can vote to put their referendum questions on the ballot. So they can say how they prefer to receive things. That doesn't mean that's how we have to do it. They're not our bosses. It'd be nice for everybody to get along. We know that that's really from the get-go has not been a thing, but we've done our due diligence this entire time. If we send it to them piecemeal, then that's something that they're gonna have to meet us halfway on. So we've already sent them stuff to vote on. We have that substantive package too, that the language got fixed on that. So now there's this stuff. I mean, it's really comes down to how fast the law department can work. So that's not on us. So that's, I mean, the city council can say, you know, they want this, that, and the other thing, but it doesn't make it real.
I understand that, but with all due respect, we held off our meeting to this night with the understanding that we were all getting this document beforehand, so we could be prepared to come here and vote. But yet that didn't happen. I mean, there is such thing as not wasting the commission's time either. I mean, we're all volunteers that have either been elected or appointed to sit on this committee. We are trying to do our due diligence. We take these home, we do our homework, you know, and we have been getting dictated by, you know, and you're right, they're not up to us, but we are trying to meet them halfway. But the council president even came before us and said they didn't want it piecemeal. We've had other council people voice that. So if that's going to cause them not to accept our work and at least give it the due diligence and the respect that it deserves, then I have a problem with that. But I mean, I'm only one person. I'm just speaking up because I'm representing Ward 2, and this is just, it's just not right.
Through the chair, I believe the council president's words were, it would be nice to have it. I don't think there was a demand, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody else, but when he sat at the podium and we were downstairs, he said it would be nice to have it all together. It didn't give me the impression that it was, we needed it all together. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I mean, the council president's been a good faith actor in all this. It's really been the rest of the council that has been a roadblock to success for everybody. I've made it clear to him that when it comes to dealing with the city council, that he represents the city council, and so I will talk to him when it comes to these kind of matters. I don't take instruction or really involve myself with any other members of the city council. So if, you know, or, you know, whatever council person says, I want, you know, this thing here now, or I want, you know, I want your changes by, you know, X date or else, that means nothing to me.
Okay.
They don't speak with any authority.
I think through the chair, to reiterate what you said, two things can be correct at the same time. Whereas it would have been a courtesy to have this document prior to. However, having Malcolm here to navigate us through 4 and 5 was able to answer the questions that we would have, you know, with going through each article. We would have been a little bit more prepared to get in with a little more expeditiously having it. I believe so, but I think we did a great job navigating through 4 and 5 with the proposed changes, as well as detecting other things that needed to be corrected as well. But I think probably going forward, I think as procedure, we should probably get some documents prior to the meetings, so we can come, so we do our constituents a proper job we're elected to do and appointed to do as the commission to do that going forward. So I think both are correct, in my opinion.
Through the chair. What time constraints are we under right now? Because the clock is ticking with the General Assembly. We need to act and get everything to the council. They need to act so that they can get enabling legislation through the General Assembly. I believe that's the procedure. And, you know, it's May. And, you know, even though the General Assembly doesn't have a termination, nobody can guess when they're going to adjourn finally, but you know, their calendar usually terminates early in June. So I don't think we have a lot of leeway. So if we don't act, we're going to have to act sooner than later. Or we run out of time and we will not be on the ballot in 2024.
Well, I'm comfortable, I don't know about everyone else, I'm comfortable with sending what we've gone over tonight with the changes, with the corrections that we've made
Yes.
and voted on to them as the law department makes the changes. And also sending the substantive stuff with the corrections that the law department has made based on the things that we already approved to them. The only stuff that I'm not comfortable voting on is stuff that is in this packet that doesn't have anything to do with finance. There's something in here that I don't know where it comes from because it was never discussed with us, that changes how the charter commission works.
1318.
Yeah. It says that the charter,
What section, please?
1318, it's a new line. It says the charter commission shall dissolve 12 months after each general election, giving rise to the formation of the charter commission. I would like to know where that came from.
Well, especially because, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, ours is a 6-year, or was it an 8-year? 8-year, I'm sorry. Ours is an 8-year term, so that came from the city canvassing, or state canvassing, actually.
Mhm.
So what is that? How does that?
So this would effectively eliminate our terms as soon as we end.
But how? You see, there's a good reason I'm needing.
Well, who proposed it? That didn't come from the
That's a
charter.
question that that's what I would like to know, is why is this here?
Do you know why it's here?
I can't speak to that. All I know is that there was discussion that the 8-year wasn't set out anywhere. It was just implied.
It's on the
Right,
ballot.
that's correct.
It was on the
It's on the
ballot.
ballot.
The 8-year is on the ballot.
It said it on the ballot.
All right.
I mean, I
And
have questions where the language comes from. I also have questions as to whether or not the city council, or even if it was on the ballot, whether people are empowered to suddenly retroactively take away terms from elected officials. So it's,
Yeah, I have a huge problem with that.
so
And through the chair, whose document is this? Who prepared this?
was it Dylan?
Yes, yeah.
So, and tell me if I'm all right or I missed something. Take, for instance, Article 10, and this is part of this that they're asking us to approve, or saying, here's what you guys said you'd approve. Section 10.1, school committee. We had a discussion, I thought it was put to a vote, that we would go to 4-year terms. When does that come up? And if we approve this document and send it to the city council, is they're gonna get there with the old stuff. And there's other things in here that I think we voted on, but it hasn't been reflected in the changes in section 10-1.
I believe that was one of the things too, that when I said that, you know, there was things that went to legal, that they were supposed to come back to us, that was one of the
Check,
things.
they were
And I have to go
checking
through my notes, but there's certain things that we discussed and we tabled the vote with the understanding that legal was gonna come back to us with an explanation.
I think I might have a light to shine on that,
Okay.
and it's included in the substantive changes in the other article that we had that was attached to the editorial. Those changes are included from the last meeting,
That I missed,
okay?
but it wasn't in my minutes. Should it be in my minutes? You voted on it?
To send the substantive,
Said the substantive, but where's the copy of the substantive?
I've got it. I mean, we all had it last meeting,
Okay, and I wasn't given a copy just because I was absent.
I guess. I don't know who's right.
Because this, it reflects,
The beginning of it were the editorial changes,
yeah,
and then it went to section 2 substantive changes,
okay,
okay? And then if you go to section 10 of that, you've got the change of the school committees 2 to 4 years in staggered terms.
okay, so did everybody get that? I'm the only one who didn't.
Where is that?
Last meeting?
The memorandum from, for the last meeting, okay? And it,
I remember getting the one that,
the title page, the page 1 has section 1 editorial changes. And we went through the editorial, and then section 2 is the substantive changes. And the explanations to the substantive changes. Minus finance and sections 4 and 5.
Yeah, staggered terms, 4 years.
Mr. Chair?
That's where the salary changes are.
Yeah, I can speak to that. We did talk about that, and Dylan's intention was to leave this document completely separate, so it does not reflect all those other changes that were made, just because the changes in here are all kind of interlaced and impact one another. So I think his hope was that whatever gets recommended from this document goes in its own separate document, so that the readers will be able to see these things go together and vote on the other things separately without them being conflated, if that makes sense.
Let's see.
To the chair in the legal department. So on this agenda, there's a vote to discuss and vote on proposed budget amendments presented by the law department. That's just finance
Tonight,
tonight,
yes.
but it doesn't say that. Well, it says presented by the law department.
because it was intended for the whole thing, but
I'll
we
see.
all didn't get it.
All right, now this being stapled, I take this as the law department has presented this to us. So I would respectfully request, when we get to that vote, to tell us to take this apart and here's what we're approving or not approving. Because if we approve this, what the law department presented to us, it's 2-year terms for school committee, not 4 years.
I'm comfortable approving the Article 4, which is finance, yeah.
Okay, so it would be stated that way in
Yes, 4 and 5.
4 and 5,
yeah.
I'm okay with that too.
Is it possible to make a request for clarification on section 1318? What the correction was on that? Where that came from? Because again, I don't.
I'd like to know where it's from, but
I've
I'm
never
not.
commission meeting, that's never been come
I think
across.
we can solve that. I'm sorry. We can solve that with a simple vote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if we want to find
Make a
out where
motion.
it came from, but I'm not voting for that regardless, so.
Yeah,
Well, we can't, no, I guess we can't make a motion to vote on that. But we could in the future.
Oh, yeah.
And that would simplify things, just negate. But it's not on the agenda to vote on tonight, so we can't vote on
Well, this, through the chair, this was part of, I read it as discussion and vote on proposed budget, or budget amendment. Okay, so that just included 4 and 5, not this in totality.
Correct.
Just, okay.
That's my interpretation.
That's how I would interpret it.
Through the chair, so it's safe to assume that we're gonna have to meet again before June,
Soon.
right?
Oh, how I would say to do this is, if this is what was presented by the law department, we can, as a motion, just, make a motion to accept the changes that were made in Articles 4 and 5 of this.
Through the chair. There were a few other items, like if you go to 10.3, number 5, it is in the public schools section, but there were, for example, that change was made to reflect the change in the budget section to make sure that everything lines up as far as the timelines, in case there's a change to the timeline of the fiscal year. It brings that into accordance with that change. Page 24. So there are a few other items that aren't in the budget section but are related to that section.
Through the chair. Can we respectfully request, and this is my opinion, that anything that's added or anything that the law department, that doesn't reflect any changes or any recommendations or any deletions or so forth, that this charter commission has recommended or been voted on, that it not be included, because this is extremely confusing. Another thing is ours didn't come out in red, but
I think that's why it's confusing.
but that's a whole other story. But on the case of, I totally agree with the chair and vice chair, that section 13-18 Charter Commission, how did it get there? You know, it's just appearing here. And we don't know why, but whoever put it in, why they put it in, and what they feel that they're gonna accomplish by putting that in. I think that it's allowing the city council to let this charter commission expire without proposing this to them, or for them actually even to hold, and tell me if I'm wrong, if people don't agree with me, for them to hold items while they're reviewing it and saying that we're dissolved after 12 months. There's no charter commission, so they can't send it back to us for, after they told us we'd like these to be changed, or can you work on this section even more? It's just, it looks like a game to me, but I agree again with the chair that we need to know how that got in there, and it should be sent to us, in my opinion, separately, so that it doesn't get confusing with passing this whole package.
Mr. Chairman, we are trying to be doing our due diligence to get this for the 2024 ballot, and we know that there's time restrictions. But where's the guarantee that it's going to get on that ballot? Because we've gotten a lot of mixed responses from different people. And even when the president of the council was here, he wasn't 100% forthcoming, and there wasn't a lot of surety that they were going to pass it to get it on this. So that's a concern too, and I'm just vocalizing a concern, because, you know, we're here doing this and we're pushing this stuff along. And then when you see stuff like 13, 18 come up, it makes you really wonder exactly what's going on.
Through the chair. My opinion, purely mine, is that it's our obligation, I think, to get the work to the council in in a fashion and in a time frame that allows them to put it on the ballot. We've then completed our task. We've done the tasks that we were elected to do. If, after that, timelines are not met, that is on someone else's shoulders, not ours. We did everything that we could, and now it's in someone else's hands to continue carrying the ball. Okay, and whether they carry it over the goal line or not, that's out of our hands. But we did what we have to do. I think that's our obligation, and that's what we took an oath to do. And I would rest easy knowing that that's what we accomplished. Okay? And we can only do what we can do. Just like it's analogous, we're presenting them with a whole body of work, of which they're going to select certain portions to put on the ballot. They're not going to put this whole document in totality on the ballot. It's going to be selections. And that's totally their right to do so. It's our right to propose the changes, and we have to do it in a time frame that allows them to get it done. Then it's their responsibility to decide what they're going to put forward and when. And that's the process. Now, let's hope that the final product is something that everyone's happy with. But time will tell.
So when's the date that we have to have everything to the city council by? So they have enough time to get it to canvassing? Or like to actually put the legal through if they vote it to get on the ballot? Do we have that date yet?
A hard date?
Well, approximate I'll take right now. Do you have an idea? Or are we waiting for that?
Well, the question is like, an actual date isn't really helpful because they would need time to have a public workshop on it. That's the reason that we're trying to push it up to get the changes to them now.
To the chair, does it have to be 90 days before a general election, Mark?
Yeah, that's why I'm.
To the Secretary of State?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but like a hard date is saying like,
To the
oh,
Secretary of State.
yeah, so
Then
that's.
they've
what-
got to.
But the legislature's gonna send it to the Secretary.
Right.
It's the legislature that I think is our time constraint right now, not the Secretary of State.
Because they'll be recessed. So,
Right. And they're not gonna call a special session just for East Providence's charter changes.
So through the chair, it was expressed to me through my council representative of Ward 4 that the council wasn't expecting, they wanted a report. Basically, was told to me they want a report in June of '24, which is in 3 weeks. That was their anticipated timeframe. That was expressed to me personally. And so this is kind of what I've been acting on because again, there was no hard date. And then again, as far as procedure, it was something we submitted to the commission in writing before stuff, and you see things that pop on that haven't been submitted in writing. So it's about the procedure, I guess, that's a little foggy, a little unclear, that we can't all answer the same question. If you asked each and every one of us how this works, you get 10 different answers,
I
and
don't
one of
think-
which hopefully is correct.
I don't think the council knows what their process is. I think that's a big problem too. I think they've agreed that they want to have a workshop, but I don't think they understand how they're actually going to go about the process. But in terms of tonight, I'm reading the section, was this Article 10, Section 10.3.5, on the school committee. This added language, the council may pass an ordinance setting forth the timeline and deadlines for the submission of budget estimates to the extent reasonable necessary for effective management of the city's budget process. So I'm assuming that's just putting saying that the city council can add on an ordinance to set the school department's budget timeline, because right now they've done it for the city. Is that?
Yes,
Am I reading
that's
that
what I
correctly?
understand, and I think it also, it self-corrects if the fiscal year is amended, then it allows that to be.
I don't know, and Manny, you know more about this than I do, but I don't know if I'm comfortable dictating to the school department when to have its budget in, just because they have to wait on a lot of state requirements. I know that's usually why it takes them so long to get their budget in, and that was this is a big issue for why
They don't get their budget data from the state, which is the lion's share of their budget, until the state budget passes, which is the last thing that the legislature does, which is sometime in June. Okay, hopefully before July 1. That's their deadline. Okay, so, you know, school department's already working on their budget. And, you know, the budget estimates, to the extent reasonable, this English needs to be cleaned up too. But school department presents a budget to the city council. And the protocol is that the city council can only cut the bottom line. So why do they need all these estimates when they know what they can afford and what the bottom line is going to be? And whether the estimate comes in early or not is not going to help if they estimate. We all know that budget estimates are pipe dreams. The state budget estimators are woefully wrong all the time. Sometimes they underestimate, sometimes they overestimate. But if you're going to base your future budget on estimates, we know that the limits are 3.5% on the last terms, on the last levy. So there's a gross number out there that needs to be divided. You know, the school committee knows what contractual obligations they have. They know what their payroll is going to be the first day of school. How many teachers they're going to have, how many custodians they're going to have. That's all projected out. I don't know. I just don't. I don't see this as a necessary. But it's going to make additional work for the school department to present this data, which I don't see helping the process, because it's just an estimate. It's an estimate. But it says may pass an ordinance setting forth, so they don't have to.
Okay. Yeah, I have concerns about it too, so. So but I think, are we all on the same page tonight that we're okay voting for the, finance and budget portions, which is, Article
Section
4 and
4 and
5? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can leave
That's
the rest.
all I will agree to.
And to the chair, where is that going after we vote on it, we approve?
So that goes.
To the vote about?
Yes, it would go, we transmit it, it goes to, the process right now is that our changes go to legal, and legal will bring them with the changes that we want to the city council. But it's getting brought through the law department,
Okay,
so it's not like I'm sending it personally to the
Right.
council.
so when they deem necessary, when they're finished, they're gonna automatically go to the city council.
So through the chair, so we could actually make a motion, theoretically make the motion to vote on the proposed budget amendment, Articles 4 and 5, with corrections
Yes, correct.
going forward. That incorporates everything we discussed tonight, plus what was sent to us by the law department, to go forward, back to legal, to go directly to trace the path, to go directly to the city council, without having to come back before us to vote on it, to do it that way, just kind of expedite to get to that point.
Through the chair, has anything been sent to the city council now that we voted?
Yes, those,
Corrections, but-
yeah, those editorial changes.
and again, to the chair, nobody's come back from the city council and said, we didn't want a piecemeal?
Not that I've heard.
I haven't heard any complaints.
I haven't had any council member call, which they do every day, but, so. all right. So maybe they don't figure because they're corrections, it's not.
Yeah, and they also knew that was gonna be done first.
Right.
When the, council president was before us, we, Dylan had proposed that and we asked, and that was in agreement, from what I understood.
I guess a little levity, I guess maybe the response to that was the addition of the section 1318.
So do you want a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I will accept the motion.
Okay. I will make the motion, and Valerie, tell me if I'm going too fast or not loud enough. That sections 4 and 5 pertaining to finance, with the changes that were discussed and voted on this evening, are approved and transferred to the law department for preparation to go to the city council. Is that a good motion that you want?
I'll second that.
We can, whenever you're ready, we can have a roll call vote.
You got that?
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mrs. Perry votes aye. Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Silva?
Aye.
Mr. Sulo?
Aye.
Mr. Vinatiero?
Aye.
Chairman Furtado?
Aye.
Can I continue? Vote to approve substantive changes to the city charter.
So these were all the other changes from the last meeting. So Bruce, you said you don't have the,
I didn't, but I can abstain. We haven't disagreed too much on, and I didn't even get it to review it, but it was voted on. So one vote, I mean,
It wasn't voted on, though, we're gonna vote on here.
but you
yeah,
discussed.
what happened was it was on for a vote for the last meeting, but then the notes that we had weren't correct.
Because we tabled it, we were having a discussion in this room, and we tabled it to vote today. So it wasn't voted on.
No, that's what we're voting on now.
Yes,
But you had said previously that we voted on it, and
Well, we discussed it.
the discussion, yeah, but
I mean, they're all things that we voted on in the past.
Or discussed.
okay.
It just
Okay.
needs to be reflected in the document.
Yes.
Accurately.
yeah, this is
See,
just.
these are things that came up for example, 4 members on the school committee, we voted on that in the past.
Right.
We just haven't voted to transmit it yet.
Okay.
That's what this is for.
Okay.
To transmit those substantive
The ones that we
changes
had already previously
that we had
discussed.
previously.
Yeah, we just tabled it because the document that had all the notes in it didn't have the correct notes in it. So. Is there any discussion for that item? This covers everything from the city clerk, the changing the 2 years to the 4 years, all the fun stuff that we've done.
Through the chair. I wasn't here for the 2 years to the 4 years. I don't believe I was. When does that take effect, if approved? The school committee.
We're presenting to, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, actually, I didn't vote on it. 'Cause
Yeah.
So go ahead.
The concept of changing it is going before the council. It's going to legal. If the council approves it, then the minutia will be put on the ballot.
Okay.
The effective date and how the staggered term will be determined, either by lottery or by other means, okay? You know, two school committee members will get 2-year terms, and 3 school committee members will get 4-year terms for the first in 2026. Okay, then thereafter, everyone will have a 4-year term.
Okay.
But the actual language and everything else is going to be written by by legal after the council decides what they're going to put on the ballot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the chair, Mr. Vinatieri, can you refresh my memory about partisan government, if that was included in that? I'm trying.
It is.
It failed. No, that passed, yes.
It passed.
I saw something in here that said,
It's written as a note because the section, there are certain sections in the notes that the language itself wasn't rewritten because it would require the entire article to be rewritten. So it's written as a note saying that if it's approved, then the reason essentially that we're going through the law department to the city council is because if the city council passes the amendment, it can go straight back to the law department to put in the added language. So like for partisan, there's that whole section pretty much explains how we're a nonpartisan city. So that whole
So then that
section is gonna need to get
change the
reworked.
language.
So we voted to change it to partisan. So this way, instead of going through and changing every part of that article, which, Dylan can bill for, instead, we can save the money as a city and just wait and see if they pass it. And if they do, then you can go and do
Make
that.
the change, okay.
Actually, what it does, Julie,
611-5.
it just deletes, there shall be no party mark or designation upon any ballot. And then after that, if approved, it'll kick in all the other changes
Okay,
that have to be made.
which makes sense because of how it affects different.
It just has a
language.
domino effect
Mhm.
on a lot of things.
So through the chair, when I first, and I know, again, my fault, I was absent at the last meeting, not trying to change things just because I wasn't here. But there was discussion that these items were not discussed, so actually you're saying they were discussed at the last meeting.
No, that's fine.
What we voted for to approve to send it to the council today.
No.
Okay, tell me again.
What I'm saying is, we voted on these in prior meetings.
Okay,
We discussed, debated,
Yeah.
okay? If you recall, I fought against
right,
the partisan, okay? It passed.
Yeah.
So that's a substantive change. We voted, it passed. Now, now today, we're gonna vote to transmit that.
Okay. I thought they were tabled for comments from the law department to go to other cities and towns, some of these items.
That, those, I think, would have been reflected in the notes.
In the notes of the last page, the notes of the last page.
No, the notes of this substantive change thing, because Dylan included all the notes here.
But,
Like this one, no, the change was drafted, the change as drafted was voted on and accepted by the commission on June 21st, 2023.
where's that meaning?
Take section 2.6 vacancies.
I just re-forwarded a copy of that, the working draft,
Okay.
of the substantive document, sorry.
Okay,
So you've got it.
all right. So, let me clarify. Everything that was discussed and that was approved is on the substantive document
Yes.
that we are going forward to try to get the approval to send it to the law department final and then to the city council from the law department.
I believe that's correct.
Yes, there's a,
Okay, so 4-year term, all that was on there, partisan government, everything, so I'm still gonna abstain because I don't have the document. If there's something missing by accident, I don't wanna vote on it. So, and I'm not having a problem with that because I wasn't here at the last meeting, so.
That's what you just emailed?
Yes, the substantive changes document with the items mentioned at the last meeting. I believe there was 2 or 3 items that Mr. Vinatiero pointed out.
Came in as Megan, okay.
You have to request access to get it, though.
Oh, it's doing that again?
Yeah,
Let's see if I can.
Who was that said?
just right now. The substantive part for the charter was sent also earlier, about an hour ago, and then as it came up in conversation, the substantive changes, that was just in conversation, just got sent right now, but
The substantive change, you should stop.
I didn't get anything.
It's not. I didn't get it. So, the red stuff is what was changed, so you go to one, sorry.
Everything's in red.
Where's the form?
we have a physical copy right now, plus the one that was from last meeting. So we just get 2.
Okay, here's a 4-year term, staggered. Non-partisan, there shall be no party marks. Declaration.
I still haven't gotten anything from you right now.
Well, section 11
JAS?
-5, if I may, Mr. Chairman, read it. In all municipal elections in the city of East Providence, whether primary, general, or special, upon any ballot or upon any declaration of candidacy nomination, that doesn't even make sense.
I think that's just a note, it's highlighting where the change is going to be made.
So when this goes back to the law office, they're gonna fix that.
Yes, they'll just
With
change
the
that.
wording for
that-
partisan government.
Yes.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
You all set?
Why, is this, it's yours, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know, I'm just making sure you're
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to.
not gonna reflect on it.
Oh, no, I'm not. I don't understand, because what's anyway from Spur last time. That was said.
No, still don't have it.
Yeah, I didn't get it either. You got it, what happens, Mike, what did you have to do?
I requested access, because it was through a Gmail, and requested access, then I just got granted access so I could open up the document. Once you click on it, it says request access.
On
I never got the email.
Yeah, I don't even have the email.
I didn't have to request access.
It's so strange.
It's for 11-5, it's, it highlighted there shall be no party marker designation.
Right.
And the proposed change is that should there be a question on the ballot at the next election in this province of partisan elections, and the note,
I am,
as the chairman stated, was the commission voted in August of 2023 to approve
JS
partisan elections in the city, which passed
11/16/77.
on a 7-2 vote. So
Okay,
I was going way back to
missing a
August.
Through the chair.
I just got it.
We're going to have another meeting, I anticipate, is that correct?
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay. Could I ask through the chair that prior to the next meeting, all the members of the commission receive from the law department a listing of all the changes that have already been transmitted to the city council. And second, in a separate document, those changes pending transmittal.
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely,
What we've already sent
sure,
and what we're going to be sending,
sure.
okay? And, prior to the meeting so that we can all review them and come back and hopefully at that meeting, clear the air and get everything accounted for so that nothing falls through. I know there are certain things like that I look for, because they're your pet, okay? And other things you don't. So, and everybody in here has certain items that I'm sure that they're hoping will get on the ballot. And we don't want to leave any of those off by just our, nothing devious or anything, just by error.
Just the same way all the clericals get in.
My Gmail is
That's how they-
which is Joe's Foundation, Gmail.com, is asking me, because I need
So-
permission to.
That being the case, do we want to schedule a meeting for next week?
I don't think we have much choice.
Yeah, I think right.
Because after that, I'm not gonna be in the country, so I will not be able to make the meetings for a couple of weeks.
You're not gonna be in the country, I guess that's a good reason not to make a meeting.
So May
Well, they got
15th.
rid of the being able to have meetings over Zoom, so.
Yeah, that's the, then you wouldn't have had an option, you would have had to.
Megan, if we meet next week, are we putting too much pressure on you?
No, that's
No?
totally fine.
This Wednesday's not gonna be good for me. My granddaughter's gonna be in college. I can't miss that. 22nd,
I can't do the 22nd.
can't do that. No, somebody else wants to take notes.
Can you do a different day next week?
Hmm?
Can you do a different day next week?
I think so. Yeah, any day, Wednesday's a really bad day.
And through the chair, and the vice chair also, there's a question for, do you think, because we're this time constraint, I heard what the vice chair said, I kind of agree with him, that it's out of our hands once we present it. You think we should request that the council president be at our next meeting? Or do you think that would not expedite anything on our behalf? I mean, I hate to do all this work and then say, oh, we didn't get it on time. Your fault, not ours, just like we're saying, if they don't do it, it's their fault, which it is. Think that helps anything?
I mean, we can ask, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Okay.
So why don't we meet next week?
Through the chair, I have my son's graduation next Thursday, and I'm not available on Tuesday night either. Unfortunately, I am available Monday and Friday, although I don't know how much that, and Wednesday, obviously.
Okay, so we got no Monday, no Tuesday and Thursday. Do we have any takers for Monday?
Is it law department, do you think have enough time, Megan?
For the 13th?
For Monday, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going, sorry, through the chair. I was just going to, if that's, if this is in alignment with what everyone wants, repackage this packet to reflect sections 4 and 5 with all the discussion items that we had tonight as approved. So I'll have that for review, and then everything else in a separate document to be up for discussion. Is
I
that
have a building
appropriate?
committee on the 13th.
Where all is it?
And that's, I cannot miss that meeting.
When do you leave?
The following week, can do if you want to do 2 weeks, could do the first half of that week.
Could we do the 17th, or is that just not, is that off the table as well?
I'm fine on the 17th.
It's a Friday, everybody.
I don't have a hot date.
Yeah.
Friday.
Does City Hall close? at
They
1
close early on
Those
Fridays.
are long on Fridays.
Is that gonna be an issue to let us in?
In City Hall, yeah, they close at noon.
How about Monday, the 20th? That'd be, this is the first half. Oh, you got the Monday, you got the,
No, I've got the 13th. Monday's building committee.
I have a conflict on the 20th. I have a standing meeting on the third Monday.
Board committee,
Mm,
you really want to meet it? But don't forget, I don't have a meeting on the 27th for the city committee, so we're not going to hear from you for a month.
I guess I could.
I'm not pushing you, Julie, I'm just saying, remind you that we don't have a meeting in May.
Well, if it works for everybody on the 20th, I'll push my meeting to the 27th, soon as you don't have a meeting.
Which is Memorial Day.
Oh, so we can't do it on Memorial Day. So that means I have to cancel my May meeting? No, I can't do that. I'm sorry. We have things that we have to discuss before the next meeting. I need a quorum.
Tuesday, the 21st. I know we're pushing it out, but it's,
It's a
Yeah,
city,
we gotta get
first
a
has
date.
a city council meeting, you think that
Oh.
matters?
Yeah, but we're up here anyway, right?
Well, that, we won't be able to request the council president if you don't think it's important.
And honestly, I don't know if you'd be able to stream.
With that, yeah.
If they're doing that too. All right, you know what? If the 20th works for everybody, I will change my meeting.
20th works for me.
I'm fine with the 20th.
It works for me.
20th, you work for me.
I will change my meeting.
Excuse me for coming.
Mark, does that work for you?
Okay, so we can meet on the 20th.
Are we gonna, through the chat, we're gonna meet in this room or we're gonna meet down in the council chambers? Because it has to be posted correctly, just so we know.
doesn't matter what we say here, it's wherever they post it. They post it in the janitor's closet, and they'll end up having to stay there.
This room seems more comfortable.
This room is much easier to book,
And have an eye contact
Yeah,
and see each other.
It's easier to,
it's more collaborative. I'm fine doing it here. So, are we fine voting today on the substantive changes, or are we holding off on that?
I'm fine with it. I don't know about anyone else.
I'm fine with it.
So, you need a motion? Make a motion to vote on the substantive changes to, send it forward to the city council.
Second.
We'll call vote.
You second. Roll call. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Perry votes aye. Mr. Rogers?
I'll vote aye.
Ms. Silva?
Aye.
Mr. Sewell?
Aye.
Mr. Vinatiero?
Aye.
Chairman Pachado?
Aye. And our next item,
Vote to transmit approved I can never say that word, substantive recommendations to the city council.
actually, we just did both.
So I did both with one
Yeah, we
motion,
did.
so.
So we're good on that, so we can move on to adjournment.
Chairman?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Phew.